أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I seek refuge in Allah against shaitan rejected, and I begin with the name of Allah, the eternal source of mercy and grace. I greet you with the greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of Allah, Almighty Allah, be upon one and all of you, and blessings of this day of the gathering. Brothers and sisters, the last time I spoke on the concept of Taqwa and the broader dimensions of this concept, and the verse that's the defining verse on Taqwa. Obviously, the way one approaches the Quran is to take the entire text of the Quran, find that particular word or concept, and put all of the verses together to get a broader understanding of what the Quran defines as or speaks on a certain subject. And this concept of taqwa is repeated quite often in the Quran. Other words like bir, etc. occur as well. And we know that taqwa is the entry point to Jannah. So it's important for us to delve into this word taqwa and what are the Quranic requirements of the word taqwa. Now that's very important because we must avoid the danger of defining the word outside the Quran, because what will happen is that we lead our lives according to those definitions that are found outside the Quran, not knowing whether they are in conformity with the Quran or not. And if they don't conform with the Quran, then they run the danger of not pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what we spoke about in Surah 2 verse 177 is the broad breakdown of the verse. Is that the first part of the verse talks about the basic beliefs. Now for anyone to enter into belief, there are basic requirements of Iman, what we call the Aqidah. What's your Aqidah? What's the basic beliefs of Islam? And just to revise it very quickly, we said, وَلَكِنَّ بِرَّ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ, to believe in Allah, وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ, the day of accountability. And we stressed the importance of not just the day that we are given life again, but the day of accountability. Why it's important to understand it as the day of accountability is that we lead our lives knowing that we will account to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for every single thing that we do. وَالْمَلَائِكَةِ, and then to believe in the angels. Why the importance of the angels? Because it is through them that we receive revelation. Obviously, it is the Malaika who interact with Allah's messengers, and as a result we get the scripture. So the next thing Allah mentions is wal kitabi, and to believe in the scripture. Then the following thing, wal nabiyyin, and the nabis. So we believe in all of these, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't stop there. So in other words, the definition of taqwa, or the definition of a believer, doesn't just stop at saying La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, but it proceeds into the practical aspects of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala requires of us. Now, there's another danger here. I hear very often that people think that, or say that you'll enter Jannah just by saying La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and you can do whatever you want, and the day of judgment you'll be forgiven because you're part of Ummah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It's important for us to know that that is not a Quranic view of life at all. It's the antithesis of what Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam stood for, and it is the antithesis of what the Quran sets forth as a requirement for Jannah. And the clear, distinct requirement, one short line in the Quran summarizes it, where it says, "Udkhulul Jannah, enter Jannah, bima kuntum ta'malun," because of your actions. So in other words, you want a Jannah, we want a Jannah. Allah is saying, strive towards it. Strive towards it. How? Strive towards it with your actions. So the first thing we dealt with was the immediate requirement, the first practical requirement. I don't think it's in any order of importance, but it's interesting to know that the first practical requirement of taqwa is وَآتَ الْمَالَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ, to give out of love for Allah. وَآتَ الْمَالَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ, out of love for Him. ذَوِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَابْنَ السَّبِيلِ وَالسَّائِلِينَ وَفِي الرِّقَابِ. Now these are the categories which we define as for your king, for orphans, the needy, the wayfarer, and for those who have requirements, and for the ransom of slaves or for those who are in captivity. These are, in summary, the marginalized of society. If you go to India, you probably will call them the untouchables. If you go to certain other parts of the world, you'll find there are people like that who are not cared for, those who society have forgotten about. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts this distinctly in the Quran. He says, وَآتَ الْمَالَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ, you shall spend your wealth to reach those who are the forgotten of society. In other words, if you are running an Islamic institution or an Islamic society at government level or on social level, then make sure that your policies are formulated in such a way that the reach of the wealth extends to those whom society has forgotten. In other words, the most downtrodden of society must be looked after under an Islamic government. Now, if you just look at the examples that we read in Islamic history, unfortunately when you read Islamic history, there's a lot of, negativity that comes with, it as well. But what we do find in all of the political disputes that took place, what we do find is under the first four caliphs, that there was a serious and a planned effort to make sure that the wealth reached the less fortunate. Why? This was a measure of the taqwa of the government. So they took this extremely seriously. It is reported that Hazrat Umar radiallahu anh would disguise himself and walk into the furthest part of the communities. Why? Because he wanted to understand and know what it's like from the people on the ground. What do they feel like? What is their situation? If Umar radiallahu anh would go there and they would know him as Umar, they would probably put up some sort of a, facade to decorate or to hide their true condition. So he wanted to see how people actually lived, because he felt responsible, like Abu Bakr, Uthman, Ali radiallahu anhu, may Allah be pleased with all of them. They had this attitude in society that the wealth of the government, the wealth of the nation must reach society. Now where did this principle come from? This principle came from Surah Hashr, Surah 59, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the spoils of war. And He says, the spoils of war is for Allah and His Rasul, and for these, I'm calling this category called the forgotten of society. Why? So that it may not make a circuit among the wealthy only. So we know how cancer and how disease spreads. It's when there's a lack of oxygen or blood supply throughout the body. And the same analogy can apply in society. When the funds or the wealth does not reach society to empower broader society, it becomes cancerous. And as a result, what we're finding today globally is a vast amount of poverty to the level where people are losing their lives. More than 24,000 children die every single day from starvation. Now this statistic would not be the same, would not have been on the scale had a person like Hazrat Umar radiallahu anh been governing the state, the world affairs. A person like him was conscientized with the Quranic requirement of وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ. We have made you an ummah justly balanced so that you may watch over humanity. In other words, stats like those should trouble us. We should never be the contributor to stats like that. Unfortunately, what do we see in the Muslim world? The war in Yemen, the war in Syria, It moves hands. It's in our own hands. We're contributing to our very own destruction. So there's 10,000 cases, additional cases of cholera reported in Yemen since the Saudi incursion. Do you think that status quo would have prevailed, or that state would have prevailed under a person like Umar radiallahu anhu? No. So when we talk about the Sahaba and we have Sahaba conferences, I don't know how much of this do we take seriously to learn about. We don't need to learn about the small little aspects of their life. What we need to learn about is how they manifested these verses of the Quran. What was their community like? So the first requirement, why? And I believe it's the opening of the expression of taqwa. Why? Because without wealth, people will starve. They need the money to go out and produce anything, even if they want to do farming. They need some form of mal, of amwal, to assist them with developing themselves. So this is the first measure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places in taqwa. Then He says, وَأَقَامَ الصَّلَاةِ وَآتَ الزَّكَاةِ. Now, the last time I gave the example of the Ansar and the Muhajirs, so I'm not going to repeat that, although I just love that story so much that I could talk about it during every lecture, but I think we've got to proceed as well. So, Allah says, وَأَقَامَ الصَّلَاةِ وَآتَ الزَّكَاةِ. This is the next requirement. So, what is the concept of salah from the Quran? The concept of salah from the Quran, the focus of the Quran is on the mindset during the prayer. Right? So one of the first requirements are the ablution. The ablution mentally and physically prepares yourself or prepares you for prayer. And we don't need to be fastidious and waste buckets of water to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Quran just very simply says, wash your face, your hands, wipe your heads, your feet, and you're ready for prayer. So in other words, in societies where there's a lack of water, and if you go to Cape Town, just a year ago, and I visited one of the masajid, there was a board there saying, we have a water crisis. I think everyone knows this. We have a water crisis. If you have a water crisis, please make wudu like this. And the steps were exactly what I described now. To keep it short and simple. In other words, do not be a waster, because wasters are the brethren of shaitan. So that's the mindset that the Quran is inculcating in us. So when we leave the taps open and we're having a discussion and the water is wasting, ask yourself, are you making the ablution that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to make? I do it as well. And I tell my kids to remind me when I do it, when the water is open and the tap is flowing, etc. Remind me that I'm wasting water. And let me, as my father, remind you as well that you're wasting water when you do so. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't require us to waste water to please Him. He requires us to make the wudu and be quick about it and get to the prayer now. And when we get to the prayer, we now come with clean minds, ready to focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what does prayer do for us? Prayer does the following for us. It's supposed to have the following outcome. Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. Indeed, salat keeps you away from shameful and unjust deeds. In other words, if we are in some sort of practice that's against the Quran, whether it's fraud or theft or oppression, bombing someone else's land, etc., then you just have to ask yourself, is the salah having that impact on me? As Allah says, Inna salat tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. In other words, I'm not actualizing my salah. So the salah for a believer is one that has an impact on his or her social life. When I say him, I mean her as well. Okay? Salah is something that has an impact on our social lives. And this is proven by one simple verse of the Quran, where the people of Shu'aib challenge him. They say, "Oh, ya Shu'aib, oh Shu'aib, as-salatuka, does your salat ta'muruka, give us instructions as to what to do with our property and to leave off worshipping other gods? You say, no. This is not right. So in other words, the salat is done with a mind frame where you grasp the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for example, in your sunnah, in your nafil salats, and I encourage each of the imams, right, to find a system. And today we have no excuse, because all of us got WhatsApp and you receive all the messages in the world, all the baking recipes are there, etc. And where the traffic cops are, and all of that is on WhatsApp. So why can't we simply have the imam sending out a message, are you reading Surah Ma'un tonight, and here's the translation. So when you come for salah, you prepare, you know what the imam is reading, and when he says, أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ, you understand what the imam is saying. So in your mind, there's an instruction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that when we go home, it will create an impact on our social lives. So to measure the effectiveness of our salah, we have to see whether it has an impact on our social lives. It's not the amount of time we spend in the masjid, but it's the impact it has on our social lives. For example, Allah says in the Jumu'ah, فَإِذَا قُضِيَتِ الصَّلَاةُ, when the salat is over, do what? فَانْتَشِرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ, move. It's not a place to stay here the whole day and gain more thawab by staying here the whole day. No, move out into the land. Move out into the land. وَابْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ, improve, in other words, seek the bounty of Allah, improve your economic and social lives. وَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا, and be extremely mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what we can see in our deen is everything is integrated. It's aimed towards empowerment. It's aimed towards our wealth reaching the less fortunate and the forgotten of society. So therefore in Surah Ma'un, Allah says, فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ يُرَاءُونَ. Cursed be to the musallis who pray just to be seen of men. In other words, their exteriors are participating. But what's happening? الَّذِينَ هُمْ يُرَاءُونَ وَيَمْنَعُونَ الْمَاعُونَ. They prevent neighborly needs. In other words, they prevent or obstruct people from doing the basic acts of upliftment of society. And then the verse goes on, it says, وَآتَ الزَّكَاةِ. So the concept of zakah is important as well. The concept of zakah, what we think is that zakah is only an obligation upon those who have wealth. But let me spoil the surprise. Allah says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Then he says, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ. Those who are active for zakah. In other words, zakah is that act that seeks to purify you or grow you towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And by spending the wealth is one of the ways in which you become tazkiyah, you become purified. Right? And that is the concept of zakah. So that obligation doesn't only sit with those who have wealth. For those who have certain skills, certain energy and strength and are able to do any sort of work, that's your form of giving to society. Sometimes we think that zakah is just for the wealthy. The question is, you have many other skills and talents. If you don't have the money, well, if you have the money, you should be giving the money and your time. But if you don't have the money, ask yourself, am I giving my time to the cause? Am I لِزَكَاةِ فَاعِلٌ? Am I active for zakah? So the obligation for zakah is on every single person. Each one of us have to ask ourselves, what have I got to share with society? If I'm a clever student, intelligent student, and I don't have enough money, well, I have the obligation to share my knowledge with someone who needs it. So don't come and say, I don't have the money, so I'm excused from my obligation. So go back to Surah Mu'minun, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ. I think I've exceeded my time, inshallah. Next time we'll continue with the concluding part of Surah 2, verse 177. Jazakallah for your time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.